Good morning. Terry here again. I've been thinking about a couple of quotes that prompted remembering my training, remembering the years I spent teaching, and I don't have many regrets, but 'cause I find it's not helpful to dwell on that. But yeah, there's some regret here. First quote is from a wonderful author named James Hollis. He says, if we fail to observe and engage in some form of cogent dialogue with the questions that emerge from our depths, we will live an unconscious, unreflective, accidental life. He's saying if we don't spend time paying attention to the questions, the concerns, maybe the sorrows, the hurts, the senses of things, the feeling that come from being, if we don't observe those, if we don't engage in some sort of dialogue with them, then we will live an unconscious, unreflective, and accidental life. I believe that to be true. And then from Carl Jung, he says man's worst sin, or humanity's worst sin, is unconsciousness. Unconsciousness, not paying attention, not being aware. But it is indulged with the greatest piety, even among those who should serve humankind as teachers and examples. Unconsciousness, indulged with piety. And I wrote a response to that in my journal. I think of my roots and tradition in mainline churches. We lived with so many words, so much noise. It droned on and on. We were taught creeds and confessions. We listened to sermons and lessons, and I taught many of them. And we almost feared the questions, feared the wondering, the suffering, the mystery from our depths. How tragic that was. And I thought back over the many years of seminary training that I had, and I do not recall one class on silence, one class that taught us the importance or the how-tos of contemplation, of quiet reflection, of maybe taking prayer beads and just breathing, learning to meditate and breathe. The courses I took were about knowing things, making sure that we had the right knowledge of how to teach things, how to listen to others, how to listen to tradition, creeds, confessions, and how to teach them. And I'm thinking it took me into my 50s when I got engaged in a doctoral program. But it was a doctoral program outside of my own tradition, more in the Quaker tradition, that taught me, actually began to have classes that included silence. And I think of the quote, I forget who it's from, the unexamined life is a life not worth living. To examine our life. And there's a little, almost a limerick that I heard, and it rung true to me, but I never really got into it or knew how to engage it. And that's the simple verse from the Psalm that says, be silent or be quiet or be still and know that I am God. And then you shorten it. Be still and know that I am. And then shorten it yet again. Be still and know. Then finally, be still. And sometimes even one step further, be. I wonder what life would have been like if I had learned to be still. Just be still. Listen to what's going on in my head, in my heart, and let it percolate up and engage it and find ways through wise guides. People that I did find once I got into therapy with very wise psychologists. I remember one of the early times in therapy that I knew nothing about, but I was in a kind of a crisis time, overstressed, So I went there, and I knew it cost, for the time I'm there, like $2 a minute. And I remember sitting there for a minute and thinking, that was $2. Not realizing at that time that the quiet time where the therapist felt very comfortable with the silence, very comfortable with me paying attention. And I don't know if he had any inclination that I was thinking about money being spent, but eventually learning that those times of silence with another wise guide were some of the most valuable times that we had. And I know much of the time we were complicated in churches that I worked with or attended because there was either a radio program being recorded or a TV program, and had the 4-second rule, couldn't have more than 4 seconds of silence at a time, had to keep going, that kind of thing. But how different life is now when I welcome silence, when I welcome listening to, engaging, paying attention to the questions, the concerns, the hurts, the losses, the joys, the shadow side of me, that I can sit with those comfortably. So I wonder what in your life, how you feel about the times of silence, the times when you don't live as unconsciously, but that you actually engage the questions that emerge from your depths and just let them be. There's much we can learn. There's much we can experience. There's much we can engage. There's a richness inside of us that I don't think many of us appreciate enough. That there's mystery, there's wonder, as well as things to have compassion for, to engage with compassion, if you will. So I'd encourage you to not live that unexamined life, to not live as unconsciously, let's say. Pay more attention to the depths that are in you. You will be amazed at what percolates and what is there to engage. And if it becomes overwhelming, which it might be sometimes, then it's a matter of, I would encourage you to find a wonderful friend, a contemplative type friend who won't try to give you answers, but can sit with you and listen and show the compassion to you that maybe you cannot show to yourself. So let's live a more examined life, shall we? All right, talk to you later.